Hey, thanks everyone for listening and watching, sharing with your family and friends, and don't forget to subscribe. Trust Me, I Know What I'm Doing is brought to you by Travelopod for destinations like Africa, Japan, Antarctica, India, and the Northern Lights regions. Start your journey with Travelopod. Visit vacation.travelopod.com.
So we value spacing. We value shooting 53s a game if we can. And it can't be everything, because if everything is important, then nothing's important. Find out what's the most important thing to winning a possession and winning a game. Positive clips, positive reinforcement. And then you practice the good habits and you try to break the bad ones. Reps, remove doubt.
Are those the accelerators? Are those the platforms that kids and youth need to access? How do younger players, Indian American or not, how do they sort of filter out the signal from the noise?
At its core, our business is people. You compete with schemes and you win with people. So technology, AI, data, all of those things go into building the relationship. Hey, this is Amit Tailor, assistant coach at Queen's University of Charlotte, and this is Trust Me, I Know What I'm Doing.
Yeah. My name is Abhay Dandekar, and I share conversations with talented and interesting individuals linked to the global Indian and South Asian community. It's informal and informative, adding insights to our evolving cultural expressions, where each person can proudly say, "Trust me, I know what I'm doing." So welcome everybody to this episode of Trust Me, I Know What I'm Doing. Periodically on Trust Me, I Know What I'm Doing, we share a spotlight conversation and feature brief chats with an individual from the community about a special topic or a unique endeavor. And for this episode, I've been thinking a lot lately about coaching and the skill it takes to digest and translate so much data into not only communicating and teaching another human, or even several humans, to perform a task, but also into executing and improving that outcome. Now, it's a journey that's not always linear, whether in sports or in life, and I'm so thrilled to welcome Amit Tailor, who's an assistant men's basketball coach and game plan strategy coordinator at Queen's University of Charlotte. Amit's been pioneering the use of data analytics, research, tech and AI, and video to help develop players and teams at every level. And with a background in chemistry and engineering, success at the NBA level with the Houston Rockets and Denver Nuggets, at USA Basketball, at Clemson, and many other college programs, and of course also as a coach with India Rising and the TBT tournament. He's a true brown baller, and I'm so pleased to welcome him to Trust Me, I Know What I'm Doing. Amit, it's so nice to have you on. Thanks so much for joining me and making some time.
Thanks for having me. I know we've been talking about this for a while, and I'm glad it's finally happening.
I'm glad it's finally happening too, but I have to share with everyone that first off, your biggest game right now is being a parent. So congratulations to you and your wife on double teaming through life, as they say.
There is no amount of defense that can prepare you for blowouts or unexpected bottle feeding. So you just kind of figure it out in the moment and go from there and try to figure out what works. And what works one day may not work another day. You never know.
You never know. That's true.
It's crazy. Her music taste changes from day to day. One day it's Vanilla Ice. The next day it's AC/DC and almost everything in between. You never know.
The day-to-day playlist and managing blowouts, that is definitely the first part of every game plan on a morning and evening basis. So congrats to you both. And I know it's going to be nothing but smiles and more than anything else, as a parent myself, take it all in, soak it all in. Savor it while it happens, because it goes by very fast.
It felt like she was just born yesterday. I can't believe how much bigger she's gotten, and how much she smiles at us now. It's nice to finally see that.
Totally. And leading up to being a parent, it's a big culture shift, right? If you think about culture shifts and what you've been doing throughout your career, bringing an analytic voice, a tech voice, an AI voice into basketball coaching, it's equally a big culture shift. So I'm curious, for you, how has data-driven scouting and AI prep in a way kind of helped you cultivate good relationship development? Because at the end, this is all about human relationship development, but almost in a way bend the arc of that culture a little bit at the programs that you've been at, with the teams that you've worked with, especially in college, in an era where NIL and transfer portals have just absolutely changed the college team atmosphere and culture so much.
So at its core, our business is people. And one of my mentors that I worked with said this as effectively as I've ever heard: you compete with schemes and you win with people. Ever since I heard that, it stuck with me. So, you know, technology, AI, data, all of those things go into building a relationship, and it starts from a place of meeting people where they are. Athletes are from a different way. Yes, especially in my experience, the athletes I've worked with are from different walks of life than me. Two-parent households, communities, prestigious high schools, very regimented structure in your life. Not necessarily the case for some of the people I work with.
Yeah.
So meeting people where they are is number one, and then educating them about how this stuff can help you. Some are very receptive to it, some are naive, and some just want to learn and figure out what makes them go. And it's a two-way street. We have to make our efforts to figure out what makes somebody tick. They have to figure out what makes them tick as well. And the marriage of the two, or the intersection of the two, is kind of where our coaching, or at least using tech, data, and AI comes into play here. Certainly not easy speaking different languages. When I first introduced the idea of using ChatGPT to automatically answer emails for us, it was somewhat of a foreign concept. And just for context, we get probably about, between all of our staff, hundreds of emails every single day from potential people wanting to be recruited or, join this program in some capacity. And answering those emails is beyond our bandwidth, given all the other responsibilities we have. So we had to incorporate some level of automation into the picture, while still sounding pretty human in doing so. So that's one end of it. But also, when it comes to game plans and development plans, data is the core of what we did. Especially this year, we got into the nitty gritty of, hey, what are we going to see the most of, and what is our answer to those recurring themes of our season, or recurring themes of a game. So we broke it down to, and this was, I think, the first time we really did it. We broke it down to, hey, this percent of the time, or out of this situation, we should expect to see this. These personnel groupings, we should expect to see this. These certain actions, we should expect to see this many times per game.
When you think about, predictive analytics and percentages and things like that, certainly when you take a step back and look at the macro part of it, it definitely informs people, right? Can sometimes, for players who have, at least from youth and into their development, have been going so much on human coaching, on their instinct and their talent as it develops through their youth and into now a little bit more competitive levels, do you have to also not just introduce them to the concepts of, hey, how do you defend properly? How do you actually square up or box out? But then also, does the data and the analytic part of that, how do you integrate that well into that kind of coaching that you do on a day-to-day basis?
I think we do a good job here, especially at Queens. We make our players aware of what are the most valuable ways they can contribute based on their role, based on their superpowers. So we kind of break it down. Hey, this is your superpower. Stay within that. And some of it is very numerically driven. Hey, 2 feet finishing, this is your percentage. 1 foot finishing, this is your percentage. Defensively, sometimes you have to break a bad habit, or break a habit in general, and you have to not so much show them a number, but maybe show them an example of either them doing it correctly and somebody else doing it correctly, or whatever have you. But delivering the message doesn't necessarily have to be data driven. It has to be sometimes, and I'm, very much a visual learner myself. So much of this is visual. So I think some of it is a marriage of visual and numerical. What we do at, sometimes at the beginning of each of our team meetings is hand out a giant packet with probably more information than anybody can comprehend, including myself.
Right.
But we try to zero in on, hey, these are the numbers of importance, especially to you and our team. And then we try to back it up with whatever video we're about to present.
Yeah.
So I'd say data is one element of it. Visuals and video has been the other element to marry the two together.
For you, I mean, because you've used video now as such an effective and powerful tool, and it's a big part of any kind of competitive sport at just about every level and every sport out there. But like, how has it changed for you, your capacity to actually watch the game and observe the game? I mean, do you think of it both from the real-time aspect, and then also, hey, this is going to be one that I'm really, really looking forward to breaking down when it comes to the film? Has it changed kind of your capacity to watch the game and observe a game, not only as a coach, but even as a fan?
Now I understand what good basketball is, having been around it. So I can actually see and argue like, why is everybody shooting so many threes? Well, it's a math problem. We're very much on the side of shooting threes, and just for reference. So, but when the rules change for us to be able to sit behind the bench with laptops and record live video, or have our game broken down by the end of the game, I'm seeing stuff in real time. So when my coach looks at me, he'll say something like, "Hey, show this person, this player, that during a timeout." This is or the defensive coordinator, or the offensive coordinator will come to me and say, "Hey, put that up for halftime." So the game has changed in terms of what our capacity is. Obviously, having done it many, many years now, it was not much of a change for me. But what it allows me to see is or not just see, but also do, is give real-time feedback. And that was new for me. I didn't have previous places I've been, I didn't have the biggest voice. And, when you're an intern in the NBA, your job is, hey, intern, shut up, just learn. And I fully embrace that. And I love my 2 years in the NBA just because of that. But now I've been empowered to use my voice, especially in contexts like that. So I can pull a player aside and say, hey, as this defense, as we move the ball, this gap opens up, and this is where you drive the gap.
Yeah. Are players sometimes surprised by that, especially like how fast that feedback can happen in real time in the game? And, for that matter, like, is that something that you've been surprised by with people's responses by that? I mean, like, you have to kind of evolve with that as you go from like, hey, I'm sort of in the background, to now being very, very empowered by that data and by that video particularly.
I think the thing I've been most surprised by and even impressed by is how fast our players realize, as soon as I'm about to show them, they say, "Is this what I think it is?" And they'll already know what I'm referring to.
Right.
So,
right.
Sometimes we don't even need to watch something or go over something. It says, "I already know what you're going to come to me about."
Yeah. Yeah.
But to me, players are extremely smart athletes. They figure stuff out as it's happening, and sometimes they figure it out faster than we do. Like, they're the ones playing the game, and so they can make the corrections or adjustments probably faster than we can tell them at times.
And I mean, it's so amazing, like, to have that kind of knowledge in the back of your head going that like, hey, I have got somebody who's going to be very individualized and precise in how they're going to give me that feedback in real time. It's almost like, look, it's not just like a conjecture thing, like I imagined it. No, it happened, and here's the video, and here's how I can actually show you how to improve. And that probably gets, adds to your ability to get to know your players that much faster and that much more, I guess, intensely during the season.
100%. And that's, a lot of the relationship building happens that way too.
Yeah.
Not just for correction's sake, but encouraging players as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, if we do something really well, we stick to a game plan, and I want to show a player he just did something really well, or he's just, saved a play or hustled or whatever, having that feedback to encourage them, hey, keep doing this. This is more of this. This is your superpower. Do more of this.
Right. When as someone who's got like such amazing analytic skills, but particularly from the observing and the watching and the video analysis, part of it, what's something the average fan or even the casual analyst who's out there, what's something that they're almost always missing when it comes to watching a team or a replay of a particular episode or encounter in basketball? What's something that, we should be doing differently as fans, as analysts, casual analysts at least, when we're watching a game?
It's interesting because now my friends will tell me, we don't know how to coach, or so-and-so coach doesn't know what they're doing. Right. But really, like, they do. Like, you think about it, and you have the fan perspective is so-and-so doesn't know what they're doing, but really they do. And you get that from listening to them speak, or listening to them present, or the way they play, or the way they practice. Coaches, by and large, I think they know what they're doing. And it's hard to find one that doesn't. There's a purpose. Sometimes, you may understand it, you may not, but there is a purpose to just about everything that gets done. Yeah. That's one of the misconceptions that I've come across a lot.
I've heard a lot of people say that, like, when you're watching a player, especially on offense and defense, you're of course like looking at them from the waist up, and you see what they do with the ball, and you see what they do with their management. But like, one thing that a lot of fans and people aren't necessarily paying attention to is just basic things like footwork or positioning, or like where their hips are and where their shoulders or where their hand movements are. So, I mean, is that something that, like, when you are looking at things as an observer, or even as a fan when you're watching a game, are you kind of looking at some of those details that typically most people aren't?
100%. And the biggest one for me is spacing. Floor spacing and floor balance. I think, the way we teach the game is really emphasized with spacing, pace, and balance. And so now when I watch a game and I see something and I don't see it, and even guys at the pro level, like I'm watching the Cleveland-Detroit game and I see a bunch of driving gaps open and saying, why doesn't he just try to go through a gap here.
Right.
But I watch other teams and all they do is hunt a mismatch, balance the floor, like Boston or Oklahoma City, hunt a mismatch, balance the floor out, and then just drive the gap and try to put pressure on the basket. So like my perspective of the game has changed, especially in the last couple of years. As the game moves a certain way, we teach that way as well. So observing the game evolving in real time or year over year has been really neat, especially now that I've been experienced at all the levels that I've been at.
Hi friends, you may have visited Italy and seen all the highlights, but exploring Europe or Asia for a more immersive vacation is where the details truly matter. That's why so many trust Travelopod for personalized custom experiences. From small group travel to complex planning for any destination, the pros at Travelopod can help make your trip seamless, affordable, and unforgettable. With thousands of 5-star ratings and stress-free booking and support, Travelopod is your trusted partner for unforgettable experiences around the world. Visit vacation.travelopod.com. Hi friends, this episode of Trust Me, I Know What I'm Doing is brought to you by Lotus Lane Coffee, a South Asian woman-owned coffee brand that's roasted in Columbus, Ohio. Every small batch bag begins on farms across India and ends in your cup with depth, intention, and story. Lotus Lane Coffee, rooted in India, roasted in Columbus. Discover the beans, the mission, and the journey at lotuslanecoffee.com. Hi, I'm Abhay Dandekar, and if you have an animal in your life that you love, then I want to introduce you to the Timberdog Rough Rest, the only dog bed you'll ever need. The patented Rough Rest is compact and light with over 14 travel features, comes in 3 sizes, and has everything from storage for essentials to a built-in sleeping bag. The New York Times Wirecutter calls it a versatile, portable dog bed with lots of extras for traveling or camping. Go to Timberdog.com to explore Rough Rest, the only dog bed you'll ever need. When you think about like how much your style has evolved over the years, right? Like at just about every level, has it informed kind of a basic philosophy for you when it comes to how you, in fact, approach the game, but particularly, how you lead? Have all these experiences informed a philosophy or a coaching style, for instance, and perhaps actually a leadership style?
100%. And the example I can give you is when I had to take over Team India Rising for a couple of days while the head coach was finishing up some obligations that he had back home. I had to lead practice, plan practice. And that was really my first foray into like being a leader and having to command a room of, professional players, but also, you have lawyers, doctors, computer engineer, whatever, right. Real estate people, you just have such a mix of people. So commanding a room full of adults, number one, 2 Indian men as another Indian man, and then basketball players. That was a new thing for me. So that really tested my leadership styles, my skills, my communication, but also how I handled adversity as well. And let's be real, when you have a group of Indian people, there's going to be drama and adversity, and handling that was something I wasn't 100% ready for, but I knew at some point could happen. So it wasn't like it was unexpected. It's just the manner of which it happened in was a little bit like, that's how we saw it. Okay, cool.
Right. Not to mention, by the way, you definitely have the Indian man aspect of it, but then you have to deal with the uncle and auntie crowd that comes after that.
No question. And luckily, these are adult aged people rather than kids where their parents say, you're responsible for them rather than my kid needs more playing time.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily one of those situations. It was, how do you balance egos? Because let's be honest, we all have an ego, whether it's small or large, we all have some level of an ego.
Yeah.
Coach, player, whoever, managing the ego. That was really my first time having to manage some egos and having to tell a good player like, hey, you're not going to be a part of this. We can't find a situation where you can play.
Well, especially when you have to kind of shoulder the responsibility and make those kind of high-level executive decisions. It's a completely different place than when you're informing or you're making them as a group. It puts a little bit of a different onus, on you as a leader. I wanted to ask you one thing about that. Like, when you're implementing your analysis at the team level, whether it's for a particular player's strategy, for a game, or even sort of in the day-to-day development at practice, what's the formula to kind of translating some of that complex data into intuition and kind of instinctive reaction that kind of has to happen at the split second level, and it also has to happen correctly over and over again. How do you like take and break down these sometimes really, really tough concepts, but translate them into something that's easily digestible for a player or a team for that matter in the moment? I mean, you just mentioned the example about spacing. At the end, somebody's got to execute that and put it into action so that it can translate into a good outcome.
There are a couple things we do. Number one, it starts with what does your head coach or your assistant coaching staff value, right? So we value spacing, we value shooting 53s a game if we can. So it starts there. Figure out what is the most valuable things you can do. And it can't be everything, because if everything is important, then nothing's important. And I stand by that. That's one of my core principles of my own leadership style. If everything is important, nothing's important. Find out what's the most important thing to winning a possession or winning a game. Number one. Number two, visuals help the most. Show them positive clips. Show your players positive clips of it being done correctly, whether it's by them or their teammates, preferably. But if you have to show them an example, say, we have a player who we want to put his head down and start driving like Jaylen Brown. So we show him, hey, Jaylen Brown plays with force. This is what we want you to do. Look at how Jaylen Brown does it, and look at how successful he is when he does do it. Positive clips, positive reinforcement. And then number three, this goes back to practice. You practice your habits. You practice the good habits, and you try to break the bad ones. Reps, remove doubt.
Now, positive reinforcement and showing constantly positive clips, that does a lot, especially for boosting self-esteem and the idea that like, hey, I can keep doing this. That completely is counterintuitive to say the way The Last Dance or Michael Jordan's philosophy was of just like, hey, look, I'm going to just repeat, really, bear down on this. So, I mean, is there value to both of those philosophies? I mean, is this just a different player that we're dealing with in 2026 and beyond? Like, how do you navigate kind of both of those edges of a winning philosophy for that matter?
I think players today respond much more favorably to positive reinforcement more than, say, 1988 Michael Jordan did.
Okay.
Who was ready to chew everybody out if they didn't practice as hard as he did. Today's athletes in general, I think, are more receptive to positive reinforcement. And you're likely to get better results if you tell them what they're doing right, show them what they're doing right, and back it up with some numerical information. So we have a player who we say, hey, don't drive into crowds, play off of 2 feet. We show him what it looks like when he does. We show him numbers of, hey, here's your turnover percentage, here's your field goal percentage.
Yeah.
And then when you do it right or when you do it the way you need to versus the way you want to, here are the differences. And this is something that we have kept track of over, now entering my third year. We do this every year. So there's a very strong correlation between, for us, the positive reinforcement. And then, when we present our personnel, so we're going to play, say, Central Arkansas, we present personnel. We present like, hey, this is really good defense. This is what really good defense against this player looks like. And sometimes it's the simple stuff. Show your hands, catch the move with your chest, little things like that. But we have to show it because we have to show them this is what we want done. This is how it's got to look.
I want to ask you about one thing you just said, which is like the whole idea that if everything's important, then nothing's important. And, is there such a thing as having too much data when it comes to presenting a game plan or strategy or how you coach a player?
We can 100% get boiled into the weeds here. There's certainly an information overload that can happen. Our jobs as coaches is what is the most important stuff. And that's truly like we try to keep it to the nuts and bolts of what we need to get accomplished. Like if I go back to if everything's important, nothing's important. We play a team that runs probably 50 different actions. So one of my jobs leading up to the game was here are the 6 to 8 actions we'll see the most of, and we can't get caught up in if they beat us with one, great. They're not going to beat us with their bread and butter.
Right. Yeah, I mean, prioritizing, like really sort of like understanding like, okay, what are the focus areas that we need, and then of course like demanding the execution part. I want to say that like for you've been incredibly passionate about the Indian American experience and representation at the college level and at the pro level, at all levels for that matter. When you were first working in this space, say 15 plus years ago, did you ever feel that there was any added pressure to either over prepare or for that matter, kind of establish some hoops credibility and kind of like establish at least your presence, right? I mean, making sure that your defense and your offense is felt on the court, but at a coaching level, did you ever feel like there was that kind of motivation, especially when you were first starting?
Understandably, yes. But Mark Daigneault, now the head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder, was one of my mentors at the time. And he gave me one of the best pieces of advice that I have ever gotten. And it resonates with me today. It was be seen, not heard. And so I took that to heart. We worked under Billy Donovan when he was in his last 2 years at Florida, right? And so my interactions with Coach Donovan were very limited that first year. The first time he ever addressed me by my name, I said, holy cow, he knows my name.
Right. Yeah.
And so when Mark told me be seen, not heard, I took that to heart, and I kept my head down and just did what I needed to do. And little by little, Coach Donovan would come to me for more and more information. Mark would come to me for more and more information. And, my philosophy of be seen, not heard stuck with me from then.
Do you think that for the Indian American, the South Asian American, and even for that matter, the global diaspora community, are there particular things that players and families and organizations need to either let go of or unlearn in order to find that kind of similar voice as they establish themselves in the community of basketball, as they advance more in the sort of either the international or the college or the pro level? Are there things that we need to do differently, perhaps as a community?
I can now say this as a parent, somewhat.
Right.
And this might be a controversial take. I think we've done it. I don't think we've done it the right way. I think we've limited or put our future in a box and said, here's what you need to do. You need to emphasize your career and your financial money-making potential, or whatever you call it, your earning potential, instead of what do you actually want to do? What do you care about? And to me, I hope as a parent, I can instill that value in our kid or kids and say, hey, you love this, then be the best at it. Go be the best, go be great. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Your dad, I can probably say this, your dad did something that not a lot of people get to do. So why can't you do the same? Why can't you be the same way?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
what do we need to unlearn? I think we just need to tell our kids, hey, dream bigger. You're capable of more. You're capable of being better. You're capable of being different. Go be great at it.
I've seen sports academies and different kinds of grassroots level efforts that are out there, both in India and abroad. And here, of course, there are many of those. Are those the accelerators? Are those the platforms that kids and youth need to access? Are there other venues or ways for people to start saying, hey, you know what, if their families are obviously supportive enough and they have good coaching, are those really the accelerators? Because at some point, there's such a wide plethora of these kinds of academies and, leagues and development pieces that are out there. How do, younger players, Indian American or not, how do they sort of filter out the signal from the noise?
It's a great question. As you can imagine, there are tens of thousands, if not more, athletes across the world, maybe hundreds of thousands of athletes across the world. The opportunities are out there, and some of it is geographically tied, right? We're lucky to be in North Carolina, which is considered the hoop state, where we have such great basketball all around us.
Kentucky might have something to say about that, or Indiana,
or Chicago. It's arguable. Everybody claims their area is the hoop, whatever.
Right.
North Carolina is no stranger, no place to take a back seat, right? We've got such great universities and such great developmental programs for younger student athletes. I think, like you said earlier, it starts with family support. It starts with some of it is a will, some of it is intention. We talk about we've read about 10,000 hours. We've talked about intention. It's got to be some combination of support, intention, and then execution, which is, okay, I love it. I'm going to be intentional about it, and I'm going to go do it. I'm going to find the right place for me to grow.
Yeah. Sometimes that might be not exactly the right place and the right moment, but hopefully there's a good amount of patience and real, I think, intention, as you mentioned. You're someone whose journey was not linear in all of this. And, you've had to pivot frequently in order to find success and, in a way, kind of find both mentors and places where grass is being watered and your career is being nurtured. What have you had to learn about patience and humility and optimism in a field that can be so brutal and so transient and, in fact, very impatient for anyone who's kind of on the ride?
I will say this, and I remind players, even at the NBA level, when I was in Houston, I didn't have much of a voice, and most of my job was shut up. But then I'd get these guys who were elite performers and elite talent, and they would be getting 0 minutes in a game. And I'd tell them, using myself as an example, not as an NBA player, of course, but as somebody who was rejected from 17 jobs before I finally got a break. Over a 10-year period, I was rejected from 17 jobs where I had interviewed, gotten pretty far down the road, and then finally got my break in Houston. Perseverance, patience, optimism. 3 really important keys to keeping your hopes alive. And some of it is hope. Sometimes it may be met with resistance from people around you, but you have to have a network of people, relationships, and then obviously you have to be good at your job or good at what you do. And I think those 3 things can kind of put you into the room of, okay, now I'm in position to make a jump from one level to another, or, maybe start with a job. I was told, at the beginning of my career, as I entered basketball, leaving, the Department of Energy, I was told no a lot. I found a way to volunteer. People liked me. And that's the other underscored aspect. People have to like you. You can't be somebody that nobody wants to be around, because let's be real. I spend more time in the office than I probably do with my wife and now daughter at times. So you have to be around people that like you. You have to like the people you work with. You don't have to be best of friends, but you have to be able to get along, and people have to be able to function and succeed and thrive in your presence. And you have to do the same, thrive and succeed in the presence of other people. So watering the grass where you are important. That's kind of how this perfect marriage of me being at Queens even has happened. Fully believe in that. But it is not to say none of this is challenging. You're Indian. You didn't play. You're not even 6 feet tall. It's
story of my life.
The stereotype is real. They look at you and think analytics or numbers or whatever. But I was luckily able to break a lot of that stereotype. The more and more I was involved in the business, and the more I held certain titles, I think the stereotype has started to break.
Yeah. Let me get a couple of quick hitters in here. So I have to ask you, who was your favorite NBA player growing up?
I grew up in Chicago during the heyday of Jordan, so it's Jordan, and it's not even a question.
Not even a question. All right. Well, I'll lay my Magic Johnson grown up style against that one, but I think you're probably right on that. Who was your favorite college player growing up?
Favorite college player growing up? So I didn't really get into college basketball until probably I started working in college basketball.
Okay.
And I think my favorite college basketball player that I've ever gotten to be around is probably a guy by the name of Patrick Young, who played for us at Florida. He had a traumatic accident. He's now paralyzed from the waist down. I had lost touch with him, but he's from Jacksonville, Florida. So Jacksonville's in our league, and I found out he was doing the TV play-by-play for our game when we played there this year, and I finally caught up to him after all these years.
Oh my God!
But one of the greatest work ethics I've ever seen. And Patrick was a very talented basketball player, had a lot of accolades going in, but never let that stop him from doing the work.
Yeah,
and I respected that a lot about him.
Do you have a coaching idol out there? Either past or present, but someone whose philosophy really you look up to or you want to mirror as far as your career goes?
Yeah, I think for people who come up through so I consider myself coming up through the video and the player development ranks as much as the analytics ranks. Eric Spoelstra, number one, and probably a lesser known name, Caleb Canales, now the head coach at Weber State, but longtime NBA assistant, has had a stint as an interim head coach. Another, non-NBA players, shorter guy, kind of like me. And I say short, relatively speaking, of course, but, didn't have the decorated playing career, just did it through work and relentless pursuit of being really good at what he wants to be good at. Those are the 2 that stick out to me.
Let me get you out of here on this one. I want you to imagine that there is some Indian American coach out there who is about to meet his or her players and team for the very first time, the very first day of practice or their very first game. What brief advice do you have for them as they embark on their firsts here for a career in coaching?
Enjoy the moment. You don't know how many of these you'll get. Opportunity is not a lengthy visitor.
Has that been something that you've had to constantly remind yourself of? 1,000,000%.
Every time I get into a situation where, I've never been promoted. The first time I ever got promoted from one job to another was here at Queens a year ago. And when I told my wife, she said, this is the first time you've heard those words, haven't you? And I said, yeah, this is. And I'm going to enjoy this as long as I can. You never know how long these opportunities stick around. Queens has, our first year eligible for the NCAA tournament was this year. We made it. We won the league. It was unbelievable. And repeating is no easy task. And one thing I learned early on being in college basketball, going to the NCAA tournament, unless you're, Duke or North Carolina or somebody along those lines, is never a guarantee. Enjoy every single moment. Enjoy the opportunities that are in front of you.
Well, as you continue to enjoy those moments, I know that there are lots of players and coaches and families and your own family that's really appreciating all the success as well. Amit, thank you so much for joining. This was really a treat, and hopefully we can catch up again down the road. Absolutely. Thanks I'm glad this finally worked out. I'm hoping we can communicate again soon. And you're a pediatrician. I might be asking you for some advice here soon. Anytime. Hey, thanks so much, Amit, and wish you the very best for this coming season. Shout out now to the Brown Ballers, who are empowering and inspiring future generations through sport. Shout out also to the Monsoon Rains, to the FIFA Gully in Kolkata, to former Cal Bear Jaylen Brown, go Bears, and to Vaibhav Suryawanshi's cricket bat. A huge thanks now to you for listening and sharing this with your friends and family, for hitting that subscribe button and dropping that very kind review. Please remember that conversation is the antidote to apathy. Till next time, I'm Abhay Darnagar.